Good
Welcome
evening,
back.
everybody, and welcome back to round number two. I am Dr. Leo, and here with my co-host Mike. Mike Diff, how you doing, homie?
Um, doing well. Looking forward to this second round. And this round we got some. Is that a bird? Uh, a plane? Is that Black Skydog playing something other than Doomsday?
Yeah, so Black Side Doc, one of the regulars here on the Discord, a well-known face, the first four-time champion when it comes to our weekend tournaments. He is the number one player on the Discord, and honestly, it's one of those things that Black Doc's just been killing with Doomsday and then just changing up, going back to where Black Guy used to be on Maverick. And when I first met Black Doc, he was killing it on Maverick, and honestly, beat me to the ground with this deck. So definitely a well-rounded player, and not only a Doomsday player, but a Maverick player. Going against Niskelman, one of our other regulars here on the Discord
On Dimir Shadow.
on Dimir Shadow. And so importantly here, Dimir Shadow does have the edge in the fact that it is faster than Maverick, being in the fact that it is a basically a Delver tempo deck. But this build is a little bit different. It goes a little bit more mid range. We have four Snapcaster Mage in the deck rather than the traditional Delver. And we do have more of a interactive package, if you will, rather than the more traditional build of Death Shadow with just like free or one mana spells. So less of a chance of getting caught up by things like Chalice of the Void, but gives you a little more late game.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense coming off of the 8 1 drops.
Hmm.
This is something I was talking about earlier today with some people. We were looking at a deck list and there were 16 drops in it, and it was looked like a great deck until the Chalice came down.
It's one of those things that if you're not prepared for it, it's always the worst. I learned that the hard way when it comes to my latest project that I've been working on, the Esper Seagate Stormcaller deck. And that deck has a very hard time against Chalice of the Void and Blood Moon. So Mono Red Prison, you pretty much have a free win against me.
Trust me, as an Elves player, you know, Chalice used to be a real problem for me.
Yeah, the key there being used to because the new tech for Allosaurus Shepherd just extremely busted.
No, it's perfectly fair.
Oh, perfectly fair. In the most relevant creature type, it gave it completely uncounterability to everything. Yeah, completely fair.
We are seeing fetch shock here, unsurprisingly.
So, really important when it comes to this matchup, though. For those that are saying that Legacy is the most impossible set to get in format to get into because it's so expensive, stuff like that. This is technically a budget-ish deck if you just cut the underground seas. Is you can just run this deck off of four watery graves, and it loves to be run off that.
Yeah, the only times when you really are, I think, missing those underground seas is when you're up against burn or,
Yeah, the
you know,
only time. That's the only time.
it's because those are the one you really have to tread the, am I going to damage myself or are they going to damage me for me?
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's what's really nice about Bug Death Shadow is it is a very good entry point because once you get your Force of Wills and you get your Wastelands and you get your first set of fetches, like you can pretty much pivot anywhere in Legacy. And remember, our server is very proxy friendly. We allow proxies in all of our events, even in our championships. You don't have to have a fully blinged out, $10,000 Legacy deck to play here. You can play with just a couple of pieces of paper printed out, original art, stuff like that, color printing, so that way it comes up good on webcam. So we have plenty of players who proxy and test decks all the time on the Discord. I know I do.
Yeah. So if you are, concerned about playing because you don't own the cards, this is the perfect place to do it. This is the perfect place to find a deck that you really love, because you can test them all out.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't have to pay for a rental subscription or anything like that in MTGO. You get a very solid look at a good metagame, very diverse. It's not just four color, five color snow go. As you can see, we don't have a single snow go matchup at all. Hell, I mean, the Shadow Blade, not Shadow Blade, Death Blade, not Death Blade, Stone Blade. Thank you. Who is an Oko deck, but it's not a traditional Snoko deck. Heck, we have a very diverse meta. It's not just Snoko and Rug Delver. Oof, but Thalia is very good against Death Shadow.
We are seeing a push on the Thalia, which is yeah,
That needs
Verts.
to happen.
Verts is a great player on our Discord. I've played against him many a time on his variety of decks, his small variety of decks.
I
But
uh
loves the
I also
proxies
play
as well.
Hurts, and I first started building my first legacy deck, like fully like investing the time into building it in graduate school. And if anybody's ever been through that, you don't make that much money. You make barely above the poverty line. And so it's one of those things. I bought pieces over time. I sold off parts of my collection. It was one of those things that when I knew I wanted to get into legacy, I put forth the time, the effort. And now I have a
See,
big
I
boy job, so I can just buy all the cards.
I took the opposite route in college. I sold everything. Didn't get back into it until afterwards.
Yeah, that was my first venture. I sold everything when I was like, oh, I'm never gonna play Magic again. No, it always crawls you back in. It always just brings you back.
Like any good addictive
Addiction.
um so we did see a Sylvan library from Black Skydock.
And coming from the fact that this is a discard deck. This is one of those things where you want to leverage discard. Sylvan Library with its repeatable card draw effect is a very good card against Death Shadow. So and importantly, we haven't seen a single threat from Death Shadow, and Death Shadow's at 10. Like this comes at 10.
Also, interestingly, I know Dimir Shadow has been running the new Shadow equivalent from Zendikar Rising, and it's not in this list.
Yeah, I did what's it called? Scourge of the Skyclaves.
Yes.
Yes, I have seen that around in some lists. I think it's just so hard to leverage uh, a um a Scourge of the Skyclave in a format where Uro and Oko and
Yeah.
other just like cling to dust, just randomly like, hey, you do a thing, you gain 3 life.
I love Cling to Dust.
Oh, I love it too. Oh, I love it. It's so good.
It's one of the best one mana spells printed in a while.
Yeah, Verts, and I agree with you. It's a very social aspect of the game. It's the most important part of it is the gathering. And so, when COVID happened, this was a perfect place for a lot of people to come together. I know personally, hey, when I start, oh, Swords to Plowshares for the Gurmag. Do we see a
That
force? Yep.
yes. Gonna say that is backbreaking because you do a lot of work to get your own life total that low, and then to have it. Oh, and
Ooh,
we're seeing another one.
ooh. And this one feels real bad. So
Yeah,
that
if you're
Swords of
Black Sky
Plowshares.
Dock at that point, like I can see holding those for as long as possible, because hitting a something
Ooh,
when oof,
this is
that
a
is a
really good Thoughtseize.
yeah, taking the knight and casting a Death Shadow, which is gonna be a 1/1.
So that was actually a really interesting take there. So Leovold, as some of you may know, is one of my favorite cards in existence. And if you are not prepared for Leovold, if you don't have an answer for it, it can basically take over a game. But I think that taking of the knight was just a consideration for Nizkelman's life total because of the fact that there's already 2 fetch lands in the graveyard plus a wasteland. That knight is already a 5/5, and with that Swords to Plowshares putting up Niskelman, and Niskelman's only on a few cards in hand, I think actually taking the knight was a good play there. But
Yeah,
that
I
being said,
agree. Like
It's
you want to control with Death Shadow, you really want to control your own life total. And that's definitely something that can let that control get away from you pretty quickly.
oh yeah. But that being said, you have to just accept then if this Leovold hits the field, you're losing your cantrips. They're done. And Leovold, also historically one of Mr. Jack Dax's favorite cards in existence as well. He's always so happy whenever he sees one on the field, and he loves it whenever I play against him. I know you do, homie. I know you do. But it's such a wonderful card. And yep, we're seeing Leovold here. So if there's no answer for this, this Leovold is just gonna just add so much card advantage over the long run.
So Niz does have two main dismembers, which are a reasonable answer to Leovold. Um,
And are we seeing a block here? Attack with Shadow, no blocks. So Fetch Shock puts Nizgleman down to 9. And let's see, any Street Wraiths in hand? Street Wraiths, because this Death Shadow is currently, let me do some math, 4/4. Okay, so
we are seeing two more Death Shadows, though. That is a clock, to say the least.
okay, so that was a very correct play then of taking the knight because yeah, Leovold can't deal with that many 4/4s.
Um, and if you're Nizkelman at this point, you've seen two Swords to Plowshares already, which are one of the best cards against you if you're on
Yes.
Death Shadow, because one of those Death Shadows gets hit with a Swords to Plowshares, all of them are dead.
Yes. That's
Um,
that's the exact point I was just about to bring up because that one, the fact that one Source Splashers can combo kill and do a 3-for-1 with for 1 mana is mind-boggling. But that's the risk that you're taking right here. Niskelman is presenting lethal and saying, "Show me the swords. You show me the swords, you win. If you don't show me the swords, I win." And Black Sky Dog can take one here. There's no red in the deck, so you don't have to worry about any sort of bolt effects.
so we're seeing just the one.
Okay. So Black Sky has to either deploy 2 more threats. Okay, Green Suns for how much we going here for 4? What we got in the list? What we got?
X equals 3, it looks like.
I
Yeah,
think it's X equals 3. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, what we get
So
here?
X equals 3.
Knight of Autumn. That's a solid one, but Uro. Oh no, Knight of the Reliquary.
It
Okay,
blocks.
so it's possible Niskelman, not Niskelman, Black Sky Dog does have the Swords of Plowshares. We're seeing a Thoughtseize. So that's going to put Niskelman down to 7 if it resolves. Is this? Yeah, that's just lethal.
Yeah.
Yeah, last guy didn't have it.
Okay.
No.
I
Oh,
mean,
that was.
reasonably make him do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Got to make him do it. Whew, that was a close game. That was a razor thin margin on both players' side.
And
So
yeah, tough too, because in a deck that essentially you want to be at 9 life as quickly as possible. Uh,
Yeah,
and
I
all of your entire deck relies on them not having that removal.
so moving into sideboards here, Black Side Dock is going to be on the play for not this round, this game. And we got one Bajuka Bog in the sideboard, one Engineered Explosives, one Crop Rotation, one Path to Exile, two Surgical Extractions, one Gaddock Teague, one Sylvan Library, one Ashiok Dream Render, as we were talking about earlier, one Choke, one Narset Part of Veils, two Plague Engineer, one Teferi Time Raveler, and one Tireless Tracker. What do you like in here?
This is a tough one, I think. I think that I mean, the chokes are great. I think I the only problem is they might be a little bit too slow.
I agree.
And in this matchup where you have a little bit of ramp in the form of Birds of Paradise and Gilded Goose. Um, I think I'm not sure. I don't know as though there's too much here that I actually would want to bring in. I mean, I think the Plague Engineers are good because at the very least they're 2/2 Death Toucher. Um, I'm not sure. What do you think?
Okay, so definitely I like the extra Path to Exile simply because extra one for one removal is never
Oh
bad.
yeah, I didn't see
Uh,
that. Yeah.
yeah, so I really like that. The Bajuga Bog I think is a little bit too overboarding. The graveyard is going to be one of those things that's going to be constantly filled up, and since the only graveyard interaction is pretty much the Gurmag Angler, and you have to hit that at specific times because otherwise you don't have priority to hit it, I don't think bringing in Graveyard Hate is the play here. The one thing I really do like is the Engineered Explosives because of the fact that the engineered explosives can take out multiple death shadows at the
Mm.
same time for only a 3 mana investment, basically 1 mana to play it out, 2 mana to activate. So I like the engineered explosives, even if you just use it as one for one removal. I think it's great. Path to Exile is great. I actually really like the Ashiok Dream Render and the Choke because getting to 3 mana is really easy, and that's what you want to do in Maverick. So Maverick, much like a lot of mid-range decks, then I always go back to that Nick Fit realm because that's like my home. It's on the same vein of you want to get that mana advantage. It's a mana advantage, mana denial deck. So you want to be able to play a 2 mana threat at the same time as a Wastelanding. So if you can just slam a 3 mana threat like Ashiok Dream Render and Choke, I think it's a great effect. Plague Engineer is a little bit too niche for my chase. You already have really good like threats and really good beefy creatures, and
Yeah.
I mean this is also an Uro deck. So it's one of those things that you have the beefiest bringing back creatures, so you don't need just the Death Touch.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. I you say that now. I love choke. It's just such a
I think
you
it's a
know.
very good card to be bringing in because it hits every single land. It turns every single land into one use. And this is just straight blue black. There's no answer to enchantments in this deck outside of just bouncing it or force willing it. So,
So what do you think about for Dimir Shadow here? In the sideboard, we've got one Fatal Push, one Inquisition of Kozilek, a Pithing Needle, two Surgical Extractions, two Liliana's Triumphs, an Ashiok on this side as well, uh,
okay.
two Brazen Borrowers, two Force of Negations, a Liliana the Last Hope, and two Narset Parter Veils.
Okay. So for this matchup, this is definitely a transitional sideboard to a mid-range game. And I think this is what Niskelman's going to do with this matchup. I like the 1-0 Fatal Push because Neither Reliquary is just such a powerhouse card. You got to get rid of it somehow. So I like bringing the one extra Fiddle Push. I like bringing the one of Pithing Needle. I love the Dream Render in this matchup. Being able to just land that on the board and have your opponent look at your at a hand full of like Neither Reliquaries, hey, Green Sun Zenith, stuff like that. Like it's such a powerhouse card in here. And I do like the two Brazen Borrowers as well as the one of Liliana Hope.
I love Ashiok against any uh, Green Sun Zenith deck. I
Oh yeah.
mean,
It's just phenomenal. The fact that it's castable off of a very simple mana base, it's hybrid mana, so it gives you so much flexibility with your mana. The inherent static ability stops those effects like fetch lands, Green Sun Zenith, anything like that. And also, you can just nuke their yard, plus also possibly hit some of their best stuff, maybe in the top four. I think it's honestly just such a powerful card. You like the card deserves a sideboard slot in some mid range decks.
So underway here, we're seeing one of my favorite starts out of a deck, a land Green Sun Zenith X equals 0, which is why the card is broken and banned in modern and all of that, because it's as good on turn 1 as it is on turn 10. Um, then in the other side saw Fetch Shock. Do we see Fetch Shock?
Yeah, that was Fetch
Yeah.
Shock, Cycle Street Wraith, and then one mana Dismember going down to 12 to hit the Dryad Arbor. And that was, wow, that was a great play. But here, Black Side Dog Green Sun Zenith for one, a really good, important one drop to hit in this matchup, I think is honestly going to be Gilded Goose. Like, oh, or Noble Hierarch. Both of those are great. But I think Gilded Goose being able to produce food will actually be relevant in this matchup. Like weirdly.
Yeah. Um Again, though, we're seeing why Green Sun Zenith is such a absurd magic card. Turn 1, turn 2, turn, whatever, you're gonna get value out of it.
Yeah, Tasty Goats. Actually, I have actually won against Turbo Depths and Dredge, and there was one more matchup where I won a game via milling out an opponent with Ashiok. It's a good feeling. It's a very good feeling.
I think I got close, against Prez once, but he was on, I think, Painter.
Oh, they're just fueling that. Okay, so we are seeing. Okay, one mana Swords of Plowshares, and we're seeing a Stubborn Denial, which with a 4 power or greater creature, that's a counter. And there's the Swords Plowshares, putting Niskelman back up to 13. Double
Yeah,
swords payoff.
if you're Black Sky, that's gonna be the best. Oh, and a Wasteland.
Mm-hmm. There's that mana
Um,
denial strategy.
yeah, if you're Black Sky Doc, that's gonna be the number one card that you're gonna be finding is more Swords to Plowshares.
Is it bad that I want to build Maverick all of a sudden?
No, it sounds exactly like you, Doc. It
It does
sounds
that.
exactly like what you would wanna do.
I just I like mid range, dude. Like it's such a fun world. Prez, Prez heard you talking shit about Painter and immediately showed up.
I didn't say anything. I was just saying I may have gotten close to milling you one time with an Ashiok when you were playing Painter.
All right, what are we seeing here? 2 mana Thalia.
Thalia.
Awesome card. Awesome card in this matchup. Making spells cost 2 is just so much more difficult. Okay, just changing how I'm playing for it. And we're seeing a second Noble Hierarch. See, this is the power of Noble Hierarch just as a mana dork, though. It makes this Thalia a 4/3 attacker. That's just so good. Name another mana dork that you're okay with top decking. Like
That's a
I
good I mean, I you know, Heritage Druid, Birchlore Rangers.
Heritage Druid is great. Hey, like don't get me wrong. But
No, no, I fully I mean, that's
Heritage
what it
Druid is
is,
so good. Heritage
eh
Druid is so good though. The amount of
yeah.
times I've conceded to a Heritage Druid on the stack is actually immense. Where you're just like, well, I don't have an answer for this. They have 3 mana and or two other elves. I'm just dead. Like let's just go. Let's just go to game two. And yeah, it looks like there was just a little bit of an accident. It happens, folks. Card deck spill. Hell, I was actually at an SEG once, and somebody called me on like setting up my deck because of the fact that I had spilled my card over, tried to get me on a games rule violation.
Unfortunately, we're human beings and things happen.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay, so we're seeing, I think Doc is, yeah, Doc's tanking here. And so, yes,
is that
yes,
a questing beast?
that is a questing beast. That is the
That's
quarterback, ladies and gentlemen.
that is a
Woo!
powerhouse of a creature.
This is, to this day, one of the baddest creatures that they've ever created that can be Green Sun Zenith for. It is a 4/4 vigilance, haste, death touch. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Has damage can't be prevented by creatures during combat that you control. And also when it deals combat damage, deals that much damage to a planeswalker your opponent controls, and with noble hierarchs, that is a 6/6 attacker that just can't be blocked most of the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think between questing beast and Uro, which can be also be green sunned for green sun has, as of the last year, gotten a really nice new set of tools. Also the new night of autumn as
Mm.
well. uh it's been a good couple of years for green sun's decks.
Yeah, and then opposition agent happened.
Well, let's not talk about it.
Oh,
uh
I saw that. When I saw that card spoil, it's like, oh, this is a really good deck. I want to play that as a Nick Fit because if you do some wild stuff, I was like, oh, wait. What if my opponent plays this card? Oh, I'm a Green Sun Zenith deck. Oh,
yep.
yeah. But Verts, yeah, it's been a pretty pushed year, a pretty pushed couple of years for Green, and I doubt that's really gonna stop.
Well,
Yeah.
and when you add things like Veil of Summer on top of
Oh
that,
my God.
and perfectly fine. I'm on a weird side of that argument because a lot of people are like, "This is the most broken card ever, and we need to ban it." I think it's fine.
Yeah, I think so. It's really weird. It's a very good card that pushes combo decks to be into green. Like the fact that if it was only played in fair mid range decks, I would be okay with it because it gives them a card besides Force of Will that they can lean on. But the problem is when you have Show and Tell not existing because you can play green because you just cast a Veil of Summer and say, "Can you counter it? If not, I'm just gonna kill you." That's not okay. That's that pushes things in a level that's not right. So as
Yeah,
much as I love it, and I love it so much, but it also pushes out cards like Hymn to Turok. It pushes out Cabal Therapy. It pushes out Tendrils of Agony. It pushes out so many cards that are just so good, and I understand that it's such a good card for or that reason. But when you're talking about a single card that can push out by itself 5 decks, well, there you go. But it's one of those things that I don't know. I think it's going to be a little bit before we see a banning in Legacy. They seem to
yeah.
not.
I think thankfully Legacy is in a really good, really healthy place overall. Um, and I think that this Discord is a really good example of that. I think the fact that you can come on every single day and play against something that you may not have seen in years is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, exactly. And most importantly, you can also win with something that you haven't seen in years. So I mean, Chaman killed it with Pox in our league finals. Oh,
And absolutely amazing showing of a deck that doesn't always get that moment in the sun.
yeah, exactly. It's one of those
And
things that
Charble with I feel like I don't generally get to see Alurin as much anymore. And to see Alurin come out and absolutely dominate the invitational was, you know, impressive.
there were torpor orbs and sideboards just for Allurman. And it still dominated matchups. And it's one of those things that this is not your average MTGO league. This is not this world that's like super streamlined Magic. This is a world where people are playing what they love. and people are
Yeah,
playing the decks that they put time into and crafted. Like they love to play.
absolutely. It's
Okay.
something I've been incredibly thankful for during the pandemic, during quarantine. Giving me a chance to shuffle up and play has been an uh, awesome, mental health thing for me.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's definitely a good break. And so we're starting it off here, and this one's on the play, starting with the ponder. And I have to say, I've noticed these ponders. I think I've seen something similar, but I think my ponders are very similar. I wonder if we have the same altarist.
Oh yeah,
The extended border, yeah. They are currently sitting on the desk, no, on the bookshelf way in the other room. So fortunately can't pull them up right
I just got an amazing altar done that I was so happy with, so nice.
now. Yeah,
And
my
it's my
altarist.
first altar,
Oh, nice.
so
Unfortunately, my
it's-
altarist zipped up and dipped out to UK, I think, someplace. I know before the pandemic happened, and then haven't heard from her since. So
so we're seeing another fetch green sun. Um, so looks
0.
like it's going to resolve.
Yeah, this is a one of the more important starts when we're talking about Maverick. It always wants to leverage that mana advantage, and Dryad Arbor is so important in that plan.
And I think even if you assume that your opponent has something to get rid of it in their hand, a fatal push or whatever, you still got to push it out here because you'd much rather have your Dryad Arbor pushed than your Knight.
Oh yeah, I agree completely. It's one of those things that it can feel bad if you're kind of leaning on that Dryad Arbor a little bit, but in the long run, it's better than hitting anything else. But when the Dryad Arbor gets wastelanded, that feels a little bit
That feels bad.
that feels bad.
Or if you've ever had your Dryad Arbor sinkhold.
Ooh, no, I have not. No, I have not. And that being said, I once played against um, Pox, and I was local friend was playing Pox, and I was able to get out Mirren of Clan Nel Toth, and Mirren of Clan Nel Toth plus Dryad Arbor basically equals. Yeah, I can never be Edict. I can never be Sinkhold. I could like I'll just always bring back land drops.
Yeah,
And yeah, it turns out that's a very hard card to beat if you're not prepared for it.
because Marin says equal or lesser.
Equal or lesser. Yep.
Okay,
To the amount of
so
experience count.
if you have 0 experience counters, being able to get back that 0, yeah, that's great.
Oh yeah.
That's
It's also really fun when you sacrifice your Dryad Arbor and basically turn it into a ritual with a Phyrexian Tower, and you just bring it back with the Mirren. Oh yeah, you can do some fun stuff with Mirren and Dryad Arbor. It's fun.
that's another card I'm not super well acquainted with. I have a friend who
Phyrexian.
has a
Ooh.
EDH deck, with Marin, but, uh, that's about my extent, other than I think maybe having you, beat my face in with it once or twice, but
It's one of those cards that when it gets people, they look at it and they go, "Shit, it's a 3/4. You can't bold it. It's a 4/4. It's a 4 CMC, so you have to have a revolted fatal push. You can swords it, but and if you let it go for 1 or 2 turns, it's just gonna get its value back. That's just how it is.
and things like trophies are not as common anymore,
Yeah, you can. Everybody's at abrupt decay because you have to get rid of the Dreadhorde Arcanist, so you need that abrupt decay.
um, which I think is fine generally, um, because the number of like Caracases that are out there handle the depths lands matchups, so you don't need the trophies as much for that.
Yep.
Um,
Okay.
oh, we're
Or
seeing a green sun's x equals 3.
yep. Force of Will pitching.
Snappy.
Yep. I mean, that's a very solid tempo play, and that needed to happen because I mean, Green Suns for 3. You got Neither Reliquary, of course, you can find. My Homie Leovold, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Raminop
Uh,
Excavator with a Wasteland on the field. That's a lock.
I mean, because it, you know, yeah. Oh, yeah. Such a good card.
Oh, it's
I love Green Sun Zenith.
oh yeah. It's it's
Um,
it's one of those staples of Legacy. It's one of those things that it can find so much. It sends itself back into the deck, and also it allows you to just have very solid top decks.
and it untaps Nettle Sentinels.
And it untabs Nettleset. For those weird people that like to play two twos that don't untap. But I'm wondering what Niskelman's is digging for here. I think Niskelman needs a better threat because already
a
at 12 life, you need to find something.
a 2-1 in this matchup is not what you want on the field.
It's gonna get so outclassed so fast. So it's one of
Um,
those things.
if you're Nizkelman in this matchup, I'm wanting to see those Gurmag anglers as quickly as possible. Are really going to be for me like the best hit.
Yeah,
It blocks a lot of Black Sky Doc's deck.
it's letting Prez let him know to move up Niskelman's board. We can't see our other cards in the graveyard. Okay, there we go. Okay, that's much better. So, how many cards in Black Sky Doc's hand? I think only one,
It
two,
looks like it might
three,
be
four,
5.
five. Yeah, 5. So you got to think. You got to think there's got to be some other threat. There has to be.
5 cards in hand, and in a deck like this, you have to assume that there's either threats or answers. Um, so we're
Seeing,
seeing a Thought Scour.
so we saw. Okay, so it was a fetch land and a ponder. I think we're gonna see a Gurmag Angler here. Yep,
Yeah, I think that's um,
a real big fish.
yeah, you could
That
say that.
real big fish that doesn't play in the Ska ban.
Unfortunately, because those are the best kind of fish. Um,
And fetch land go. Yeah,
keeping a brainstorm.
I think Niskaman might be empty-handed.
Okay, so that makes sense then.
No, Niz has 3 cards in hand.
Oh, okay. Maybe he's got a Snapcaster or something. Get that value off that brainstorm.
Seeing a bop.
That
Cast Birds of Paradise and
no.
plays a Maze of It.
Oh,
Oof,
interesting.
oof, that is a answer for a Gurmag Angler. Ooh, so real cool things that talk about with the My Homie Questing Beast. It gets around things like Maze of Ith. It gets around things like Force Field. It gets around things like Solitary Confinement, which is one of my favorite things to do. Sorry, Darius, I kind of killed you with that one. Sorry for your Enchantress build, homie. Uh, it gets around Mother of Runes, Giver of Runes. It gets around any of the swords. It also gets around True Name Nemesis and crap. Is there anything else I can think of off the top of my head? It just gets around so much and is one of just the most broken cards. There's no reason why that card should exist, but
We are
it does.
seeing Snapcaster into brainstorm.
That's the reason why the brainstorm was left into the yard.
Yeah,
Got
yeah,
to get
yeah.
that incremental advantage. Okay, here's my question for you though: Is Snapcaster still a good card in Legacy right now?
I I think Snapcaster is for the same reason that True Name Nemesis is bad in Legacy right now. There are I own 12 to 15 copies of Plague Engineer, and I don't think I'm out of the like
Oh,
I
Scarecrow. Thank you for that. It also kills Progenitus. That's another important one. But yes, I agree. I think Plague Engineer has just really changed where we evaluate cards, especially on the one toughness round. If it is a one toughness creature that belongs to a popular tribe, i.e., humans, elves, goblins, um, illusion jellyfish for drunk.
Charbel, I hear you. 90% of my deck also dies to Plague Engineer.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things that birds, serpents, snakes, you name it, Plague Engineer just kills with it, and it's one of those things that it's really changed how decks are designed. And Charvel, I agree with you, but the thing is, you also kill people with that on with Plague Engineer on the board. Dice X has never had a strong argument, in my opinion. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Everything dies to something.
But when it can be a main mortable effect,
Yeah.
it just sits there and it just like, okay, you have three X1s on the board. I'll just name it.
Well,
I think it's such a powerful card, but I think it does cause a little bit of issues.
the
Oh,
Pox build that I'm running currently has 4 main Plague Engineers.
like, but I mean, it's that good. I mean, you can't help but play
Ex
it.
exactly.
Yeah, and we're seeing the maze getting rid of the Gurmag. Yeah, exactly. It's pushed out, infect stuff like that, and I mean, it's one of those things that I think Snapcaster is still like good, but even then, even with Plague Engineer still in existence, Mystic Sanctuary exists. Like it's just as good, if not better, because it can put a Terminus on top of your library
Yep.
for minimal impact that doesn't take a creature slot. Like I think Snapcaster, it's one of those things that it's just none of these cards that has just been sort of dated by 2019 and 2020.
And, mine, sadly weep in the boxes behind me, because I love Snapcaster Mage. It's such a great card, but
Honestly, that Esper Seagate Stormcaller deck that I built originally was a Snapcaster deck. It had Snapcaster to really leverage the spells that are going to go to your yard that haven't really been doing anything. And I just had to think, all right,
it had to have been so mana hungry, though.
it was so mana hungry, and it was just like,
Mm,
meh.
We're seeing a swords here,
And a stubborn denial in response. And what
and
we got for
another swords.
another
It's all
sword.
4 of them, right?
I think that's four. Yes. I think you're also going to swords the Gurmag Angler because swordsing the Gurmag Angler kills the Death Shadow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like Mystic Sanctuary just does everything that Snapcaster wants to do without being as mana hungry.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that that's a fair assessment.
Engineered explosives. So what are you taking here?
Oh,
Because I think it has to be 100% the Hex Shrinker.
a Hex Drinker is bananas. I love Hex Drinker. Hex Drinker is such a cool creature.
Yeah,
Um,
I
oh,
agree.
but
Oh,
taking the EE
engineered. Ooh,
means they must have a fatal push or something in hand.
because I mean it's one of those things. The Hex Shrinker, if you allow it to level up any amount of times, it's Progenitus. It's just that good. Also, another thing that Questing Beast kills.
Uh,
The greatest moments are when your opponent blocks with their true name nemesis as on your anything that's attacking besides questing beasts, and then there's like Okay, it dies. It's like, what? It's like, to all of my creatures.
Uh, Another card I love. Love Progenitus. Such a absurd, unreasonable card.
Yeah, and it had to be green for natural order.
It did. And green for Green Sun Zenith.
Yep. Yep. And okay, are we seeing Green
Speaking of
Sun
which,
4?
Green Suns looks like X equals 3.
X equals. Yep, looks like X equals 3.
So what are you grabbing here? A
I
knight?
think we need a beat stick. I think going for the knight is a good play. Oh,
Oh, getting an Uro.
Uro. Okay, no, I can see that. Boosting up your
I
life
think that
roll.
that's get some card advantage. Have something to do with your mana for a couple of turns. I think
Yeah,
that that's a fair. I mean, but Uro's also it's just absurd, right?
yeah.
So I think that the Uro's always going to be a fair snag. Which I just bought my first Uro the other day.
I bought my 2 copies of Uro. My first one I bought when it was at 25. My next one when it was at 30 before it like super spiked.
And we're seeing that Hex Drinker come out.
Yep. I think just changing up how the mana is fetched because is that a yeah. And we are seeing level up number 1.
Another fun trick with Mazavith is uh, after combat damage, mazing your own creature.
Yep, that's another fun trick. I think I don't know if Niskanen can come back for this because the Uro in the yard is a solid threat. The Hex Drinker must be answered this turn, otherwise that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. So that could put the Hex Drinker up to to level 7.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Not
think
only does it cost a single green, it's only one to level up. And
Modern
is it's one
Horizons
colorless, right?
1 colorless.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first saw that card, I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then I saw a actually Dukes on Twitch actually jamming it in Maverick and just singing the praise for how good this card was. And I was like, we'll see. And then I can't remember if it was actually Blackside Doc killed me with it, and I was like, okay, I need one of these copies. So I immediately bought like 2 or 3.
Yeah. I think that that's probably the one card from Modern Horizons that I haven't bought a copy of. Just because I haven't had a home for it. Which, I love Green Sun Zenith. I should probably just build Maverick. You want to build Maverick, Doc?
You got the Gaia's Cradle. That's like one of the more expensive parts about Maverick. You have a Gaia's Cradle. Do you have Wastelands?
Yeah.
Oh, you're
Yep.
good, dude. Yeah, you got
Only
everything.
one Savannah, though.
That's true. It's usually a 2 Savannah type of deck. I don't know. I'm pretty hard on this Seagate Stormcaller list for a little bit. Like, it's just so much fun to mind twist people. Like, they never expect it.
It's a fun it's a fun deck to play against as well when you're not getting mind twisted.
Okay, so it turns out our players lost audio there for a little bit. Uh, the maze on the Snapcaster worked, and then it was a passing for the turn. Okay, let's see. You bring back the Uro? Yeah, I think it's time to bring back the Uro.
I think there are very few things that you draw here that
Are better
are
than just
better. I
Uro.
mean, if you draw a questing beast, I think you can pretty easily windmill slam that, um, or a knight. Uh, but yeah, if you're Black Skydock here, you're just taking everything out of your graveyard except for lands, right?
Yeah, I think leaving lands for the Nether Reliquary are really important, as well as the fact that lands can be brought back with Ragnarok Excavator for more value. It looks like. Oh, And we're gonna see the fail push. Okay.
Yeah, that is a must answer.
Yeah. I don't think once it gets to level 3, I don't think there's a single card in this Gloom's deck that can deal with it. Yeah,
Yeah,
protection from instant gives it for literally protection from everything outside of being blocked. And honestly, I think Black Sky Docks bringing back Uro is just locked down this game. I mean,
just
Niskoman can kill it, but like
not
for
only the
you,
fact that you've got it if when it enters the first time, you've got it when it enters the second time, but then every time it attacks, that that 3 points of life every turn against a deck like Death Shadow is just so
exactly.
hard to fight back from. Um, if you kill the arrow once, kill the arrow twice, maybe you don't have to deal with it again for a couple more turns. But this deck is good at putting things in the graveyard.
And importantly here, we don't even have any more well, we have one more shock that is left in deck. There's one more Watery Grave. We've already seen several Street Wraiths. I really think outside of just taking this Uro hit, which puts you down to 4, I think it's the only last way to really give yourself a Death Shadow that can be there and stick. But even then, that gets answered by so many things, including just this Maze of It just sitting on the board.
Yeah.
No Wastelands in this deck. That Maze of It is here to stay.
Unfortunately, uh, the uh dismember is -5, -5. So, uh,
It can't even kill an Uro.
yeah.
Oh my god.
So we are seeing a street race cycle
See?
and a death shadow.
Death Shadow. Okay. It's a 5/5.
Yeah, no, unfortunately you need to pay the 8 life associated with dismember in order to kill an arrow.
I honestly, I'm just swinging with Uro.
Yeah.
I'm swinging in with Uro. I don't care. Your Death Shadow doesn't matter to me anymore. Oh,
Well,
Assassin Trophy.
I mean at that point, do you swing in anyway? Like if the double block happens, then but he's not going to double block in that situation.
No basics in the deck. Uh yeah, I honestly I don't know about that because it seemed like the Death Shadow was kind of priced into just blocking and you just bring back your Uro.
Sure.
What are we? Oh,
Ooh,
we are okay.
another
So this says it's going
amazing card from the recent year or so. Or
new best edict effect.
oh, it's crazy. I love Liliana's Triumph.
So it looks like I don't think Black Sky has double blue to bring back the Uro on this previous turn. So tapping down that Trop Wild,
Use that trop for the use the
yeah,
trop for the
couldn't bring it
trophy.
back that turn. But now it's okay. And yeah, plenty of land, plenty of cards in there.
We are going to see a couple of those precious lands. But at this point, you just gotta put Uro onto the battlefield as much as possible because
Oh yeah,
Nizkelman's only going to be able to answer that so many times. And we see a knight. That is very backbreaking.
that's
Those
two
two
lands in the
things,
graveyard. So it's a 5/5 with Uro. That's lethal on the board.
yeah,
And with a wasteland on the board that is actually lethal. Oh, either one of those. No, the Uro isn't lethal. So surprisingly, if this just comes down to just straight up attacking next turn, you have to block the knight because you can wasteland yourself in order to give you more
Oh,
relief.
yeah.
Yeah. Put 2 more lands in there. That's 5, 6, 7. That's 7 damage. So it's almost lethal. One more fetch lands. It is lethal. Okay. Lily Last Hope. What are we seeing here? I think you got to tick down.
Yeah.
Get yourself a Death Shadow back.
Force of
Force,
will, force
force,
of will off the top.
and getting back a Death Shadow most likely.
Yeah.
Because that Death Shadow is large.
It's a 10-10. That
Yep.
blocks pretty well.
That does block extremely well.
Uh,
JK, it's a 3/3. And I think that might be the scoop.
yeah.
Yep.
I hate to see it go out on a Lily like that because that's my favorite Lily.
Yeah, Niskelman concedes. Yeah. Oh, I love Lily Last Hope. I packed mine back in the day, and I'm like, okay, I'm keeping this forever. This card is amazing. Yeah, Black Sky Dog taking that one with a decisive 2-1 finish. And that's the end of round number 2, everybody. We got one more round left in the wings for you all. So if you stick there with us, we'll be back in here just a little bit. We'll have a fun matchup with our homie Charble in the chat coming up soon.
All right. Thanks very much, everybody.